Welcome to the Blind Spot. This is episode 10 of the Blind Spot, and we got an exciting guest for you guys today. Before we jump into the program here, I want everybody to hit the like, share, subscribe, repost, tell your friends and family about the podcast. We're trying to, generate and resonate with the Black community, and we want to share as much as we can. Okay. The Blindspot Podcast is brought to you by Definitive Safety Group and myself, Jonathan Davis. And on the podcast, we just touch on entrepreneurships and Black business and underserved businesses, so we could generate, like I said, that reciprocity, so that we can all be on the same page as a community. Okay. Before we jump into our next guest, I want to just touch bases on Definitive Safety Group. Our website is up. It's at definitivesafetygroup.com. Okay. When you go to the website, dive into some of our blogs. We post weekly. Our blogs are science-based blogs, things to do with the environment, as we are an environmental compliance company. So just take a look at our blogs. They're called Definitive Insights. Okay. And then locally, if you're in the Bay Area, we have our classes every month. This class is going to be the Food Manager Certification on August 5th. It's an in-person class at the Antioch Community Center. Okay, it's going to be taught by myself, and we're working on a hybrid option as well that'll be going through our website, so that you could do a self-paced online course. Okay, and that'll be extended to everybody. But right now we're at the Community Center. August 5th will be our next course. Okay. Just to touch in on our next guest. Our next guest hails from the DMV area, Alexandria. Okay. His name is Mr. E.Sean Lanier. He is the executive director of RSI, which is Resolve Solutions Incorporated. And we'll just dive right in and let him tell you a little bit more about himself and RSI. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing? Thanks for having me on today.
Hey, thanks for coming on to our platform. So let's just jump right into it, man. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about RSI and how you came up with the idea for it.
All right, appreciate it. Again, my name is E.Sean Lanier. I'm founder and executive director for Resolve Solutions Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that is veteran-owned and services able. But myself, a little bit about my background. If you can imagine, a two-year-old kid going to the air show, driving his mom nuts, running around, looking at the aircraft, staring at the pilots, and all of that. I was that kid. So I knew very early on what I wanted to do. I come from a military family. My father was a Vietnam medevac pilot, and actually took me flying when I was about 5 years old. And if you can imagine that the show MASH and those helicopters that came in at the beginning of the show, he took me up flying in one of those. And if you imagine two, big old fat dudes up front and a 5-year-old kid, there's no doors in the aircraft. So, imagine a 5-year-old kid terrified that you're going to fall out the aircraft, but at the same time, looking at God's country from above, flying over the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. There you go. I was hooked. So exposure is everything. So I was very fortunate to, again, had support from my family to go to college. There was no conversation about college. It was like, it was understood if you want to be a pilot, there was no, the military was a way to go. You needed to have a degree. So the conversation about college was, you're going to college. It's that simple. So I graduated, Lord have mercy, graduated from the Virginia Military Institute. I was contracted Army. I did the National Guard and Reserves. So I was an S&P cadet while I was going through ROTC at the same time. I got commissioned. It was branch aviation. Got selected to go to as an aviation officer, and went down to Fort Parker, Alabama, and there we are. We're running. And later on in my career, after going through, 6 deployments, been to 35 countries, and learned to speak 5 languages along the way. But toward the end of my career, I realized that flying was a childhood dream. And giving back to kids or giving back was my passion. And that's how I ended up starting off RSI. I started off as a volunteer alumni recruiter, trying to help improve the diversity of my alma mater, VMI. But I realized it was a little bit bigger issue than just VMI. So as I was recruiting kids there, as I started helping kids get into a Virginia State University or Cal State Fullerton or a service academy like West Point or the Air Force Academy, what I was doing was actually teaching the local champions, teachers, counselors, coaches, athletic directors, principals, the folks who had access to kids. I was teaching them what we were looking for VMI, but I was also helping by getting more kids an opportunity to get an RSI scholarship and graduate from college with little to no debt and become officers.
Got it. So what inspired you initially to help underserved and underrepresented high school students or potential students at all?
I think that, honestly, I grew up in a family with my grandmother, Miss Alice Lanier. We used to call her Miss Peaches. It was just, she came from a community that she just helped kids. Everybody was her kid. I still hear her voice in my head each day, think about the children. So she was always giving back, helping other kids, try to establish a national name day for kids, National Children's Day. And I think that just kind of sunk in about giving back. I mean, you got to understand, I'm from the community. They don't really care about how much money you make, what titles that you get. If you're not helping or giving back others, hey, you're Miss Peach's grandson. You'll be dealt with. So I think that was always just part of our DNA growing up because it was very embedded. I grew up next to Virginia State University. So a lot of stuff that was going on from the civil rights, was poured into my parents, the grandparents. And that was just part of the culture of giving back and paying it forward. That's just understanding what you do. So I think that's when the opportunity came up when I was looking to transition from the military. This was a kind of a natural step-in position. It wasn't something I sought out. It just, the opportunity to volunteer it just clicked. And it was just like, okay, this is what you should be doing.
Exactly. So rolling into RSI, how does RSI support these incoming students in achieving academic and career success while they prepare for military service?
Well, to date, we've helped about 530 kids from 23 states earn about $43 million toward their undergraduate degrees. And that's primarily through ROTC scholarships and service academy appointments. What we do is work with those local champions that I mentioned. And that's, again, those folks who have access to kids, whether it's Black Greek letter organizations, teachers, counselors, principals, parents, veterans that serve with JRTC instructors, athletic directors, anyone who has access to kids. We try to build a relationship with them, let them know what we're looking for because there's just a lot of kids out there. Once we identify kids that have the grit, determination, in addition to grades, test scores, those type of things, we help them navigate the process, understanding less than 2% of our nation is served in the military. So helping them understand how to dot the T's, cross the I's on the application, the importance of getting it in on time. Let that process roll. Once they get the offer to go to Service Academy or more specifically, ROTC, what we try to do as a nonprofit is raise funds to be able to provide funding for them to go to summer school before and after their freshman year. That's critically important, because they're before their freshman year to go to some type of summer bridging program where they can get on campus, get their academic confidence up, taking 3 to 6 credit hours, teach them how to build a relationship with the faculty, introduce them to some alumni, teach them about nutrition, make sure they're in shape. So when they start in the fall, they have a support network around them. After their freshman year, it's important to go to summer school because for some instances, you may need to go to summer school to stay on track to graduate or raise your GPA. But if you're tracking, it's important to get academically ahead because we also want to consider doing study abroad, primarily through a program called Project Global Officer, which is DoD sponsor, or through a language immersion program, Power Language Immersion that we fund. Like we had 3 students this year that went to overseas to Portugal, Costa Rica, and the UAE, where they got to spend 3 weeks staying with the family, completely immersed in the language and the culture for 3 weeks, studying 20 hours a week. So that's the equivalent of 1 semester worth of study, almost 6 credit hours. But getting that exposure then helps them be more competitive for paid internships after their sophomore year and their junior year because you have something extra on your resume. you're a little bit more well-rounded. You have a little bit better perspective. And then for some of the students, they may want to pursue that language study a little bit further, applying for other programs like another opportunity to go back overseas through Project Global Officer, or applying for the Bourne Award, or there's another program called DLNSEOS, DLNSEOS, where these programs will pay for a student to go up to a semester or a year overseas to get the opportunity. Again, this just creates more confidence in the student, give them more exposure, and helps them separate themselves from their peers.
Yeah. That also rolls into the next question too. Do you have any success stories about notable students or achievements that they've had in the last couple of students that you've came across?
Yeah, I have two young men right now. Both officers in the Army, Nathan Gaines, and then also Jordan Washington. Both of them are Army aviators. So that 2-year-old little kid that was driving his mom nuts, that was dreaming about becoming a pilot. Well, now I get to be something of a dream maker, and I have 2 kids that are going off to learn how to fly H-64 Apache helicopters. Also, I mentioned 3 students this summer. I like to highlight Heavenly Simmons, a rising sophomore at Howard University. And Heavenly just completed her freshman year, was accepted to Project Global Officer, and then she studied 4 weeks in cultural immersion over in Jordan. Then from finishing up in Amman, Jordan, she got on. We paid for her to go on a plane, fly over to Dubai, United Arab Immigrants, where she did 3 weeks of power immersion, language training, and she just landed back home after that week. So that's 7 weeks of study abroad in 2 different countries for just a freshman, a college freshman that's going through a sophomore year. And Heavenly, it challenged us because she said, hey, I want to go to 7 different countries. So we had to go back and say, hey, how do we make this happen? So fingers are crossed if she continues to have that, have that spark, and we just keep giving a little bit of oxygen. Hopefully we can get her to go maybe to Egypt over winter break, in the next summer. Hopefully we can get her back to get Project Global Officer, where she may be able to go to Oman or Morocco, one of those countries. And then like this summer, we send her somewhere else for another 3 weeks. And then if she gets accepted for the Bourne Awards, she has the potential to study in another country for an entire semester, going into the first semester of her junior year. And that will give her 6. And then she will come back, do her summer training with the Army, get assessed as an officer. And then she also has a possibility of getting a master's at New York University in Abu Dhabi in economics. So what we do is, again, the kids have an idea what they want to do. We want to just keep planting those seeds and keep nurturing it, so they can kind of push them a little bit further so they can be more successful in their journey.
Yeah, that's great. And just to touch again back on RSI, you guys are a nonprofit, correct?
Yes, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Could you share some insights about being a nonprofit and how that can impact the organization's growth or ability to fulfill a mission?
Well, I think people got to understand that nonprofits are businesses. There's always a for-profit, nonprofit, but you have to be better stewards of your donors' dollars with a nonprofit. You're held to a higher degree of accountability. There's certain percentages that you have to have, that you have to put the money that's given to you, trusted by your donors, to put that towards your actual mission. So we can't go out here and hire a staff. I can't pay myself an exorbitant salary because it had to stay within like a certain percentage, about 5 to 7% of your overhead, and the rest of it has to go towards your mission. So you have to really be very, it's tough as you're starting off, because like for us, people say, well, I can write you a check. Well, what's actually more important for us is having a donor base. Right now, our goal is to have 800 donors, that's contributing monthly with recurring revenue. And what that does is give you sustained revenue throughout the year. If that takes care of your overhead, then you can apply for larger grants that can pay for your programs. In our case, the summer school, the language immersion, and study abroad opportunities. And that's the formula, but it takes you a while to get that base or just understand that model process and getting it to fluid. So for us, we have a small donor campaign where people can contribute monthly. We're hoping that our combined federal campaign, which is a way that federal employees and military members, both active duty and retired, can contribute out of their paychecks and be contributed. So that's between those two. That's how we hope to grow to 800 within the next 2 years. That'll give us that revenue that can take care of our that overhead, and then we can apply for other larger grants, donor advised funds, as well as applying for federal grants, those type of things.
No, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
a lot of work involved. Then you have the corporate opportunities. You got to make sure that you're aligned with their missions, and typically corporations have 3 to 5 pillars, and you have to fit one of those pillars for them to be eligible. So, but then you're also dealing with multiple calendar years. I'm dealing with high school students to have a high school calendar year, and then college students to have their calendar year, which is a little bit different. You have DOD, which is on the fiscal year, then you have corporations, which is on the calendar year. So imagine, trying to fit all of those things in and getting them into alignment. And essentially, you have to be working all of them. It's like spinning plates. You have to spin 7 to 8 spinning plates and make sure none of them drop. And that's what we're kind of going through now as we kind of go through that growth phase.
Okay. So with that challenge of running a nonprofit, the other question that we have is the challenge of recruiting. You said you target at-risk youth or underprivileged students. What's your approach to, a young man, young woman that's, basically in at-risk youth that doesn't want to leave their neighborhood or doesn't see the military as an option for them? How do you, what's your approach into talking to that young man or woman?
Well, we kind of control the risk. We talk to a lot of schools. Again, it's about relationship with the adults. It typically takes 2 to 3 adults to be in the kid's life. So we work with, again, Black Greek letter organizations, Top Ladies of Distinction, Jack and Jill. Then you're also, when you go to a high school, there's 5 people that you're looking for: the principal, the senior counselor, the college and career counselor, the JRTC instructor, and the athletic director. Between those 5 people, they pretty much know everyone in the high school. So if you know who those ones, they're typically going to give you a recommendation about a kid. But more importantly, that's a trusted agent. So the information that we provide is going to be backed up by that person. That's someone we can talk to and play, good cop, or good cop, bad cop. However, they make sure that message get through. Typically, we also look for kids that fall under the SAL model, which is a scholar, athlete, leader. That means they have decent grades. They demonstrate some athletic ability or demonstrated level of fitness, and they typically have some type of leadership qualities, particularly peer leader. The kid that other people tend to follow, or when they speak up, they have that voice. And a lot of those things are not measured by SAT or ACT or GPA. That's why you have to have those relationships with other people to identify those characteristics. And then once you know that, as you approach that person, you're not approaching them as a number or just as a recruit. You're approaching them as a holistic person and looking at them as not a one-trick pony, but as a more like a Swiss Army knife. A lot of skill sets. And a lot of times with kids is that they have certain qualities in them, but they want to be treated as an athlete. And it's like, well, you probably don't get more traction, with these other attributes and teaching them how to do that. So it's a lot of trust building. We try to go to certain events that are catered to the audiences, like the Black College Expo, which is sponsored by National College Resource Foundation. They have fairs throughout the country that we try to get to. This past semester, we went to events with them in San Diego, Oakland, LA, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Chicago, and then also Infinite Scholars. So there's a lot of programs that have the target audience of what we're looking for already. And it's just a matter of the kids showing up, or more importantly, us knowing the adults that can identify those kids in case they don't make it to those events.
Got it. And then can you discuss the impact that RSI has had on improving retention through ROTC colleges, and ultimately, changing the commissioning rates for the armed forces?
Well, again, as you stated, we've helped over 530 kids from 23 states earn over $43 million in offers. We've had students that graduate from all of the federal service academies, Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, West Point, Merchant Marine Academy, Coast Guard Academy. We've had students that go on to senior military colleges like Norwich University, VMI, my alma mater, the Virginia Military Institute, the Virginia Tech Corps Cadets, the Citadel, North Georgia College, and Texas A&M, and even Mary Baldwin University, which falls under VMI. We've had over 160 kids go to HBCUs. We've had the most success at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, and in North Carolina A&T in Greensboro University. And when I say the most success, on average, the average success rate for ROTC scholarship, particularly for the Army, is like 52%, and it's 33% with HBCUs. We've had almost an 80% success rate of those 4 HBCUs that I mentioned, and we've had well over 80% success rate in my alma mater, VMI, even in 2022, where we had 33 out of 37 kids to graduate. So, that helps improve the retention rates for the family, the students coming out with little to no debt upon graduation. That means they have more disposable income, which means that they can invest in themselves. Plus, they have their GI Bill benefits. They have their pay for their master's degree, and then they have that VA certificate, which means they can purchase a home with no money down. So that's how you change the economic trajectory of a family and put them on a positive path forward. What they do with it is up to them, but make sure they have the right tools and they're equipped to take that on.
Okay. A lot of your kids or students, are they receptive to RSI and some of the programs that they have, or?
A lot of the kids don't know what we do because it's a little bit of a trick, because you want students and the parents to go through the process themselves and own the process. That's very central for us. So a lot of times we have hands-on, but we don't leave fingerprints, which can be kind of difficult sometimes, because sometimes kids don't understand that, or we may come at them at different times as part of the process, and they're like, "Hey, where are you coming from?" Well, hey, guy, I've been here the entire time. But that's, most of the time, once we talk to the kids and the parents, so they help them connect the dots. Like one young man, say freshman year, we were hands off, but he did very well, played football, electrical engineer with a 3.8 GPA. So like I told him, I talked to his father and started explaining to him that, hey, there's different things he needs to be prepared go for, both while he's playing football and afterwards, going to different career fairs, that he's going to get visibility to get internships, or there's certain opportunities out here that are he can apply for grad school and have that fully paid for, working for a Fortune 500 company. So those are the things that we have to kind of make sure that we're continuing to take that spark and feeding it the right oxygen. But after having that conversation with the parent, also having it with the student to make sure that they're bought in, making sure they understood which websites to go to so they can look at it and process it on their own. But more importantly, what you really want is to have a combination where the message that I'm seeing is being received by both the parents and the student. So when they talk, it's a higher level discussion. They're not talking about it from a point of entry where it's the first time they're hearing about it. Both of them figure out, hey, what's the positives for me? What do they see? Hopefully there's overlap, but then there may be one or two nuances that the other didn't see. So they have better conversation, which reinforces the decision to move forward.
Yeah. And then to wrap things up, how can a family or potential student get in contact with RSI? What's the best method of contact to reach out to you guys?
Well, the best thing to do for students out there, look us up on Instagram, because you're going to see not all 530 kids of our bonus kids out there, but you're going to see a lot of kids that graduate that are what I like to say chocolate. They're going to be dark chocolate, light chocolate, swirl, vanilla, strawberry chocolate. You're going to see a bunch of kids out there going to different schools, different hues. that are successful. That's the most important thing. So you know that we're not just talking to talk. The kids are actually executing what we're doing. Also, look at our website, resolvesolutions.org, and check us out. You can send us an email on our email that's off the site there for information to seek out more information, and then just let us know. Again, we know that the process is not is complicated. What we're trying to do is help you simplify the process to get you on glide path so you can get off and do other things in life.
Okay, great. And lastly, any upcoming events that you want to touch on that RSI is putting on or being a part of?
Yep, we got two events that's coming up. On the 8th of August, we're going to have a Joint Service Academy. We're hosting a Joint Service Academy business mixer here in Old Town Alexandria. That's primarily, Service Academy and ROTC graduates will come there. We're going to have a few of our students that went overseas to come there with their parents, so people can actually see and hear their own experiences of how they travel abroad. And then also on the 12th of September, the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce has their Distinguished Service Awards, which will be held at the Army Navy Club here in Arlington, Virginia. Definitely encourage everyone to check that out. RSI has been named one of the finalists for Veteran Service Organization of the Year with revenues less than $1 million. So we're hoping to win that on that date, but September 12th. But those are the two things we're excited about, as well as potentially having our CFC application approved. So looking forward to it, getting more support and being able to help more kids in the future.
Hey, congratulations and good luck to you on that. And we want to appreciate you coming onto the podcast, coming onto our platform and sharing with the community more about RSI and your business and everything. We appreciate you, Sean. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks again for Jonathan for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to get the word out. And definitely, I love kids from California, man. Like I said, I was out in San Diego, LA, Oakland. So I'm looking for them all. So the Bay Area, I love those gritty kids from the Bay Area as well.
All right. We'll send them your way. I appreciate you coming on, though.
All right. Now, thank you.
All right. Have a good one. All right. And that's the end of our podcast this week. This is episode 10. Thank you guys for joining. And again, follow us on every social media, like, share, subscribe. Let's get the word out. I appreciate you guys for joining us.